So today we're just continuing the talking about graphs and doing some really describing what's happening. Yesterday we talked about like maximum and minimum. So those are like high points and low points. And we're kind of tracking those like as far as the y-axis goes. As like the further the point is up on the y-axis means it's a maximum, and the lower it goes, it means it was a minimum, right? Now we're going to be tracking from left to right. So more along the x-axis. Just pause this for a minute so you guys can. Okay, so looking at this parabola graph now. So when we talked yesterday about those min and max points, those are one of the things that you might call those are critical points. They're points where we know something about or that there's some characteristic on the graph about it. So you see here where there's a maximum, right? This maximum point right here. So as we're looking at this, we're going to talk about increasing and decreasing now. So as we go from the left of the graph and follow it over to the right part of the graph, what's happening? What direction are we going? So here, we're like kind of tracking and we're going, what are we doing? Are we increasing or decreasing there, would you say? Increasing, right? We're kind of going up. And then we get to that critical point, that maximum point, and then we kind of turn things around, right? Now things start to do what? Decrease. So we have basically our answer. Now we just need to write it into interval notation. So when we do that, this is the point, the area where it's changing direction, right? So in this section here, we are stopping along the x-axis at 0, and we are starting at negative infinity, because this, if this arrow keeps going down, it's going to keep going out further and further, like on the x-axis wise. So this is your interval notation. This isn't a point. This isn't an x and a y. That means if I'm tracking along my x-axis, kind of starting over here at negative infinity and moving across, my graph is increasing in that interval from negative infinity to 0. Okay. I think that's the hardest thing to think of, is that it's not a point. It's a space on the graph. This would be similar to saying, like, where x is less than or equal to 0. That's saying the same thing, but this is the interval notation that says that. Okay? And in that area, we said it was increasing. And then from that point, we start to decrease, right? It starts at 0, and it's going to continue decreasing forever, right? So it's increasing until, or decreasing, I should say, until positive infinity. So this graph has a section that's increasing, and then it's going to start decreasing. Okay, any questions there? And we're going to do some more examples, but you kind of see how this is.
Is the negative infinity or 0 basically the space between like wherever that line goes and that center area?
Yeah, it's this area right here.
The empty area or the part that's inside the line?
Well, it's describing the graph, this area of the graph. Now, this is going to keep going forever. So, okay. So let's look at another one. Okay, so the first thing to kind of ask yourself is, where are the points where this graph changes direction? Well, it changes direction right here, right? It's going to change direction right here and right here. So we really have 4 different areas to talk about. We have this area, what's happening, this area, what's happening in here, and then what's happening over here. So kind of thinking from left to right, this first section, what is it doing? Reading it from left to right, it's decreasing, right? And our x values here, our x coordinate, can go all the way to negative infinity, right? Because of that arrow. Whoops, that looks like an 8. Negative infinity. And where is it going to be stopping? What's in that section? What's the largest x value that we could have? The negative 1. And put a bracket there, because the graph actually goes right through that point. It includes that point. Okay, then we got this next section. And it goes from what x values? Negative 1 to 0. And what's happening in there? It is increasing. So we're going to increase, I'm going to abbreviate it, from negative 1 with a bracket to 0. And that's not a point. That's telling you along what span it's increasing. Then we have another section. What's happening here? Now it's decreasing. I'm going to write it up here. And it's decreasing from 0 to positive 1. Brackets. And then in our last section, it's increasing. And it's going from positive 1 to infinity. Infinity always uses a parenthesis and not the bracket. How you feeling?
Why is the 1 not negative?
You're not going like this, you're going to...
Yeah, this one. This
see.
number's tracking along the x-axis.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of why I like to draw those vertical dotted lines.
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. So we want to look at where are points where we're changing direction. We're changing direction right here, right? So that blocks off an interval. And then we're changing direction right here. So on this one, we're going to have 3 different intervals to talk about. So in our first interval, what are we doing? Increasing or decreasing? Increasing, right? I'm just going to put an I for increase. So we're increasing from negative infinity to here, which is what? Negative 2, right? Because remember, it's the x value that we're talking about. Okay. And then the next area, what's happening? Increase or decrease? Decreasing. From what to what? Between negative 2 and 0. And then what happens? And then it starts to travel back up, right? So increasing. And it's increasing from zero, and then this is going to keep going, right? So from 0 to positive infinity. So this is a bracket and a parenthesis. One more to look at. Any questions on that one? Okay. So here, at negative 3, negative 1, put a point. We go through the origin, and then we're going to go positive 3, positive 1. It's a graph kind of like that. So these, when you look at this one on the worksheet, it's going to almost look like this might be going flat, but after our critical points, it is really going to go up or down. So these, it's like it's going up, and this one is going down. So where are our critical points here? Right here. And right there, right? So can you write those for me? I'm just kind of going to pause here for a minute and let you guys try that. So there's the intervals for that one. Any questions?